Hey guys, welcome to Checkpoint Achieved, the weekly gaming podcast where I get some guys together. We talk about video games and also what's going on in the industry. Today is a very special day as the PS4 conference just finished up, around 2 hours long. So we've been sitting around watching all this PS4 news come in, and we got a lot of opinions about what has gone on there. We're also going to talk a little bit about other news that went on this week and also what we've been playing as well. But let's jump into who we got on the show today. We got Gage Paul with me and Mike Leahy for the first time. And let's start off right away. What was your initial impressions, guys, of what we saw from the PS4 at the conference? Not necessarily the games and stuff, we'll get into that a little bit, but just generally what you thought of the system overall and the controller that they officially announced.
It looks really interesting. It looks a lot of the gameplay was really interesting. Just the way the AI was acting, a lot more intelligent. One of the ones that really caught me was the Watchdogs, but we'll talk more about that later. And it looks really good, and I'm really interested to see the new share button, especially.
Yeah, the share button looked pretty cool. They're really focusing on more of a friendship sort of thing. They showed a lot of games with more co-op gameplay. That Drive Club game, that looked kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, it had a cool, it was kind of interesting because it played with, I don't know what they're going to do with it, but they're going like, millions of people across the world are going to be able to play.
Yeah, and they're taking out things like, they're not going to focus on really PSN things, and they're really trying to bring what they believe you'll be interested in doing.
It was one of those things too, like the beginning of the conference, we'll get into the whole details of what went on, but this is a 2-hour conference. You guys came in, Mike, you came in about 15 minutes into the conference, Gage came in about 30 minutes into the conference, so they saw a lot of the buck end of the conference, but I was sitting down watching the beginning of it, and it really started off strong. Like, they were talking about the system, they had all these things that they wanted to say about what it's going to be able to do, and they showed off the controller. It looked really cool, and at the same time as well, they brought essentially some cool stuff to the table right away, and it was all interesting things about connectivity, what we're going to be able to do with this system that really is some stuff that I didn't even think about. They're talking about connectivity with Facebook and whatnot. That's not a major thing that interests me, but just the whole setup of the actual media bar, or what you're going to have for looking at your own profile. They had this screen where you had your picture, your actual name, your gamer tag, or whatever you want to call it, your trophies there as well, and a bunch of other info going on too. And it was just kind of interesting to see that they're really taking an approach, it seems like, to listen to people, listen to what people want to see out of these systems, and go forward with that. Especially when they talked a little bit about the share button, they talked about people actually being able to jump into games too, where someone might be having trouble there, necessarily not getting through a level. And I don't know for sure, because this is all just stuff that we heard and just kind of took it and thought that's what it sounds like. So maybe this isn't exactly what it is, but it sounded like you're going to be able to actually jump in and help people in their games, and also spectate and watch people play too, which is a couple of interesting things we have not seen on any consoles yet. And even if it's going to be a kind of a hit or miss, it's still going to be really kind of cool to see how that turns out.
Yeah, it looked really interesting, especially like if you're having troubles in a game. I wonder if that's going to be a feature you can turn on and off, because it'd be kind of annoying if you're like, if it's a puzzle game, like say Portal, if they did a new one of those, and you're trying to figure out the puzzle, and then some guy just pops into your game and like shoots a bunch of portals everywhere, and he goes and wins.
He's like, well, I did it for you, and you're like, thanks, asshole. But yeah, I kind of am interested to see that too. Like, they showed in one of the things later on, Capcom was on the stage, and I think the game was Deep Down that they were talking about, and it was like this guy was playing the game, and he's like, oh, Yoshi, I'm in trouble, man. Can you help me out and give me some gear? And that's kind of, cheesy the way they showed it, but I'm interested to see if it's going to be like that, or like you can actually jump in and like help the guy out. I don't know exactly what that's going to be.
From what I understood, what they said was you let your friend take over your game for you. So you're no longer playing the game. That's what I got from it, is that you're letting so-and-so step into the game to get through that specific part for you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how that's going to work. Like, they talked about, that's one of the interesting things too, is they talked about a bunch of stuff that, in my mind, I can't really comprehend. Like, we have our systems, our PS3s, our 360s, and we play the games we play right now the way we do. And they obviously have to innovate, have to make these systems, these new consoles, something that people want to buy. You can't just say, better graphics, go buy it, $500. That's not going to work. You need to make these systems something that people are like, wow, that does that? I mean, I don't know if I need that, but that's kind of cool. And that just that weird type of thing that where you're able to grow on new technology, that's kind of what you get people interested in. At least at the beginning of this conference, that's what it did to me, where I was like, hey, some of this stuff actually sounds really cool. And it had me initially really excited at the beginning of the conference.
And then they showed Knack.
Yes, they showed Knack. And why did they show that? I'm not sure.
I don't know why they let off with their first IP. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, the new IP
yeah,
there.
They let off their first IP was this game Knack, and it looked like it belonged on a PS2.
Yeah. It's one of those things that they were showing the interconnectivity between that and the Vita, which another thing that really kind of sucked about this was that the Vita really didn't get that much press time at all. They talked about it a bit at the beginning. They were like, hey, this, the Vita is going to be able to use it with the PS4. It's going to be able to use as a remote control, and also play your game on the Vita. You're also going to be seeing a lot more cool stuff from the Vita. But then they had about another hour and 40 minutes of this presentation, and they barely even talked about it anymore. And once more as well, they had a press conference in, I guess it was Japan, a couple days ago, where they actually announced a price drop for the Vita. And when Sony America was asked if this was a thing that they were going to be doing for the North American version, they kind of just said, we don't know, we'll just wait and see. And I really thought that they're going to be like coming out saying, the Vita is going to work with the PS4, and if you want to go get it right now, you can get it for, $199, or the price drop that we're kind of looking for that. And I know...
Yeah, take advantage of the excitement that people are getting now for the new generation of consoles and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, when you see stuff like that, it kind of makes you think maybe that would be kind of cool. I'm still don't really think handheld gaming is for me anymore. I just don't see it in my life that much, but... It's still something that some people would have saw and been like, that's really cool, I kind of want to go get a Vita. And then if it would have said price drop as well, or maybe showed off a couple cool games that fits with that, it could have just really helped that out. And the Vita's in the water right now, drowning in a way. So
I have no interest in the Vita at all. I don't know. I looked when it first came out. My friend got one on day one, and I was playing around with it, and it was pretty cool. And I was like, this seems pretty fun. And then I'm like, this is $250. And I could just play games on my iPhone.
Yeah, when I tried it out, I was kind of like, wow, I really wish this game was on a PlayStation 3.
Yeah, there's a couple games that have done that where I'm like, I don't want to buy a Vita for that game. I just want that to be like a downloadable game on the PS3.
Exactly.
And they're trying to make you buy a Vita by having these games, but there's nothing that's really grabbing me. And they could have grabbed some people with these, ways of innovating the console to, work with the PS4. But they didn't really go too much into the actual details of the game system and, potentially make people interested in it. But let's jump into the controller, because we haven't talked that much about it. We still don't know exactly what it's going to be like, because we never, held it or anything like that. We've just seen visuals of it. But we actually have the confirmation that the prototype that we kind of saw is pretty much what it's going to be. The one thing that kind of turned me off is it looked like the back... triggers are still the same way. They look like they're still the clicking type, which I'm not necessarily a big fan of, but the controller overall looks like it's going to be interesting. I can't say if I'm a fan of it or not right now, because it really is about getting your hands on it, really feeling what it's like. But what did you guys think of the controller, just from visually how they showed it off?
Well, they really just focused on one key aspect, which was the share button, which is going to allow your friends to watch you as you're actually playing. Yeah. And allow you to download or upload different game videos and stuff like that.
Yeah, like with the share button, I think that specifically, I think you press the share button in the game, and you can, the last 15 minutes of the game, you can go back and see your stuff, and then you can upload your recordings. And then once you do that, I think people can go to again, this is all speculation, right? But it looks like your profile on your XMB is going to be having your profile. Then you have maybe some games or screenshots next to your name. This is all stuff that it looks like it's going to do, and it's going to be really interesting, because I enjoy going to check out other people's profiles and seeing, hey, Mike's been playing Assassin's Creed 3. What type of trophies does he have versus my trophies? What did he get into? And it's kind of cool sometimes, because maybe... Even in the case we talked about interconnectivity, I could be like, I'm a trophy whore, so I love going around. I love getting trophies, guys. Right now.
Yeah, I'm complete opposite. I think trophies are the most pointless, stupid thing that you could ever put into a video game.
Yeah, well, it gets me to play video games, and that's it's sad, but it's true. Because it's just like something that it's like a collection thing. I don't know. I don't collect anything in real life, but in my little PlayStation, I like to have these trophies. But back to the point, though, I think that it'd be kind of cool. They're talking about the internet connectivity. I can go to your profile, right? I can see, hey, you haven't been able to get this trophy, or I see a trophy that you have that I want to get, and I'm like, hey, Mike, how did you get that trophy? And you're like, don't worry, Bryden, I've got a video to show you, and you actually have like your gameplay, and you can send me that gameplay, or like in another case, I want to get that in that case. And I'm like, can you jump into my game and help me out? Because I can't do it. I don't know where to go. And you're like, oh, don't worry, man. It's just over here. That's like where the secret Easter egg is.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's so much stuff like that they can work with and really make it interesting. I don't know what they're going to do with it, obviously. And it's all, just guessing at this point. But there's a lot of cool stuff like that they could potentially do.
One of the things that looked cool to me was that they're not going to be... It looks like they're going to be using real sites when you press the share button, not like a Sony video dot whatever.
Yeah.
Because he said after the Killzone thing, he said, just so you guys know, he pressed the share button after, and he uploaded it right to Facebook.
That's kind of cool, right? I mean, I want to see some stuff like that happen where you can... There's a big industry out there, not necessarily an industry, but there's a big group of people out there that enjoy sharing their videos and enjoy, posting walkthroughs. This isn't necessarily going to be the way to do it, but it's going to give people an option to show things off, and it's going to really open that up, because so many people... I do my YouTube videos and stuff. I get emails all the time in my YouTube and just in general saying, hey, how can I start, making videos? And sometimes people just don't understand that for me to do videos, I have to have a PVR, I have to have the right recording equipment at home, and there's a lot of stuff that I had to invest to actually make that happen. And it's a big step for people, especially people that are in high school or even younger than that. They want to record their stuff, they want to show it to their friends. But there's no way that they're going to do that right now. And this is going to give a bunch of people like that an option to kind of experiment with that and see how they can play around with that. And it's going to really open up the community, I think, a little bit to make people get more involved with each other and also be able to show off some cool stuff.
Way more accessible to people that are not as tech savvy.
Yeah, you just press the button and there you go, right?
Exactly.
So let's move on to some of the other stuff that happened. We'll talk a little bit more about the connectivity of the PS4, but we'll jump into the first game that they showed, and it's the new IP. I guess it's the guy that designed the console. I don't have the name here right now, but he was talking about the console, what it can do, but he also showed off his new game called Knack. And this is the game that they showed off this Epic Games just kind of teaser reel of just like what their technology can do potentially on the system, which was pretty sweet. You knew that wasn't a game, it was just more like an animation just showing what type of hardware they're going to be working with here, right? But when you move on to the actual first game that Sony shows, the new IP, they show off this game called Knack, and as we're sitting here, I couldn't help but laugh. It was just like, it was just corny. It was really...
It definitely not the game to open with.
No.
There's all different types of gamers. People like all different types of games, but usually when you're doing a big press conference like this, you're not going to open with something that your majority of fans are not going to be take seriously.
It looks like a really bad Pixar movie.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think the game could have potential, right? But it's something that you don't, like you said, don't show right away. And maybe don't even show at this press conference. Just be like, hey, this is another game. And then, if you saw a trailer for it, then you maybe say, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, this is such a big pedestal for all these games to be on, right? Everybody's watching. As we saw the feed there's like 500,000 people watching at the same time. And that was just on the PlayStation feed. There's a bunch of other feeds going on at the same time too. And all these people are expecting these amazing things, right? And when you have these big action games, that can do the trick. But when you show something that's kind of like a cartoon...
Yeah, they let off with a game that really looks like it's going to project to more of a younger audience. An audience that really is probably not going to be able to get a PlayStation 4 right off the bat.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that it showed a couple cool things, I think, but it was at the wrong time of the conference. If they're going to show it, maybe show it a little bit later. Other than that, though, it was the whole, like, there's ways to do a trailer too. There's ways to make a trailer look cool, and a lot of those, like, action sequences were alright, but then they cut to, like, a little bit of a dialogue, and they're like, you know, you're not a human, Knack. And I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, really, really cliche lines.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And who knows, maybe this game will be an awesome game.
We don't know.
We have no idea. We only saw about 2-3 minutes of gameplay footage and dialogue video and stuff like that. So we really don't know what the game is totally about. But from what we saw, it looks maybe a bit outdated in terms of storyline and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that.
It looks like they're trying to hit the Little Big Planet market.
Yeah.
Like, that's what they were aiming for, and it just... It's not... Little Big Planet was fun because you kind of create your own things and play with friends, and even then it didn't sell to a huge audience. It was mostly kids or young people.
There was... I think it sold to the creative people too, and I don't think this game's going to necessarily do that. It just seems more like a action game from the 2000s. Excuse me there.
Like a PS2 action game.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. It looked like it belongs in the same category as, say, Ratchet and Clank or games like that. Not that those games were bad in any way. It's just sort of the way games are moving is to more of a realistic approach.
Yeah, and the technology at the time made games like Jack and made games like Ratchet and Clank and Sly Cooper kind of interesting because they used the technology of what they could do in a cool way, right? But they also made it more artistic to, you know, kind of off balance the fact that they couldn't make the game look really realistic, right? That's what a lot of games do, is that when they can't necessarily have the money to make the game look as real as possible, they rely on art and kind of a fun design to make the game more interesting. And, you know, still people say, oh, that's a cool art design, just because they're not looking for the greatest, you know, visual technology. But you look at a game like Sly 4 that just recently came out for the PS3, and a lot of people are saying that game doesn't look technically that great anymore. They obviously updated it, made it look better in the other Sly games, but it's still kind of playing with a style that was good on the PS2 and not necessarily on the PS3. The one thing I'll say about the Knack trailer, though, is kind of cool, is that the small, I don't even know what he is, like a small monster or whatever, when he built up, he had all these little gems that his body was created from. And strictly from a technical standpoint, that actually looked kind of cool. There was one specific point where he, like, smashed down his fist and...
Scattered.
Yeah, everything scattered, and it was really cool because you could see the real... Like, it looked like it was using a lot of solid technology.
Yeah, the game looked like gameplay in that game looks like it's going to be really its strong point.
Yeah, I mean, like, those parts were the interesting parts to me. But we'll move on from that there. You know, we talked about a little bit what this system's going to do. One of the funny parts that kind of got into is that they started talking about your interests. And this is the one, like, they were really hitting it, you know, doing a great job. Knack was kind of but they were talking about a lot of things with the connectivity of the PS4 that were really interesting. But then they got to this point where they're talking about interests as a gamer, and they were talking about the fact that you're going to be able to play games while they're downloading, which is kind of cool. There's some games that you download, and it's like 20 gigabytes or whatever. It's a huge game. You're like, if you want to download that instead of buying it in a store, that's going to take a while for most people that don't have a great internet connection. Even for people that have great internet connection, that's still like a couple hours, you know, even maybe an hour and a half. They talked about that you can start getting into a game and you don't necessarily have to download it right away. That was the cool part. But then they started talking about, like, we'll know what you like. We'll know what you want. And you won't even have to download things. We'll download them for you. And I was kind of like, that's cool, I guess, but I don't want you buying things for me. And
we got your credit card information. Oh, you'll probably just download Tetris.
Yeah, you'll want that. Trust me, that game. And like, no, I don't, money back, please. And they're like, no, you wanted it.
I don't think they really meant with purchases. I don't think that's
no.
what they meant. They were going with using cloud stuff. They were gonna. I think that's what they were talking about a bit.
And the the Plus right now for PlayStation Plus, you get some of that. Where some people might not like this, but I really enjoy it. At 3 a.m. in the morning, my PS3 comes on and is on for an hour and 20 minutes. It downloads patches for any games that I have on the system and any games that I have yet to download in general. Like if I've got stuff in the queue, like I had PlayStation Plus just recently released Vanquish as a free game that I could play, and I've wanted to play Vanquish. but it's a 12 gigabyte game. I'm like, I'm not downloading that while I'm awake. I go to sleep, I wake up this morning, and voila, the game is on my system, ready to go. It's already installed too. Yeah. And that's neat, that's fun. But they're going to continue to work on that, and I'm really excited to see where that's going to go. The only thing I don't want them to do, though, is they're talking about all this interconnectivity. I don't want them, posting on my Facebook things that, like, Bryden just bought Dungeon Slayer 2, and
We've already kind of started to do that with getting achievements, especially on the Xbox. Like, I'll be scrolling through and I'll see, like, so-and-so got the achievement for beating this chapter. I'm like, okay, that's cool. You shouldn't clog up my news feed.
Yeah, like, you should hide that. That's not... Like, again, maybe people want to share that because they like that. But, I mean...
it's specific to the person, really.
Definitely.
But I don't exactly want everybody knowing what I'm doing all the time with my games and stuff like that. Because maybe you're playing, like, a little kiddie game, and then, I don't know, bully from down the street sees, and now it's the talk of the town that you were playing Princess whatever with
Knack.
your little sister, right? And it's like
12-year-old Mike's like,
yeah.
Oh no, Gee Willikers.
Yeah. It's like, I was playing with my sister, come on.
No, definitely, I can understand that. It's kind of funny how we're gonna get to this point, right? That technology is continually getting better. We're getting to this point now that stuff is always going to be becoming more connected. Like, Google owns so much stuff where I go on to stuff sometimes. It's like, do you want to sign in with your Google account? And I'm like, sure, because that's easy. I don't have to do a bunch of stuff, right? But it's also getting to that point where everything is getting really connected. And it's cool in some ways.
Watchdogs.
Yeah. Something like that, right? Where you're kind of like, this is cool, but at the same time, it's a little weird at some points too. So I like that. I like that they're talking about some of those things, but I'm apprehensive of other parts, right?
Seemed like a bit like they were trying to invade your privacy, maybe a little.
Yeah, it's like they're...
social media things and stuff like
I think
that.
they'll give you the option. I don't think that they're going to be that blatant that they're like, nope, Bryden's playing this game, everybody in the world knows now. That's not how it works. Like, but it is, they're being pretty straightforward with the fact that they're saying, like, yep, we're going to record all the things that you like, and we're going to save it in our database so that we know what to give you. And, I mean, if they can make the store, like the storefront, because the storefront right now is kind of, I'm not going to lie, I don't like the new storefront. I prefer the old storefront. But, I mean, if they can make the storefront look decent, like better than it is right now for PS4, and then they also integrate it with what I like, then that could be kind of a cool thing. Because let's say I want to buy that game that I've been watching trailers for on my PS4. But they know that I'm watching those trailers, so that when that game comes out, maybe they even send me a notification, or if it's right up there, it's like, Bryden, check this out. It's there. You can buy it from the PlayStation Store. And, there's a lot of stuff they can do with that. We got to wait and see, but...
It'd be interesting if they did, like Steam, how you can buy a game before it's out or pre-order it.
Yeah.
And then you can preload it onto your system.
They don't do the preload yet, but they let you pre-order.
Yeah, they let you pre-order now. And what they were talking about as well, I think you touched on it, was... Bryden touched on it, was downloading while you're playing.
Yeah.
So you get right into the game instantly, and it downloads a small fragment so that you can do that, and then it downloads the rest of the game while you're playing the game.
And that's another big thing too. Like, I like downloading games digitally. I'm gonna say that originally I had this thing where I was kind of like, I liked having my boxes, but I'm getting past that point now where I'm enjoying Steam more, I'm enjoying playing on the PC, and I'm totally getting why Steam's such a great service, because I can just get games. They're usually on discount because they're, just a digital. They're not, like, I don't have to go to the store. I don't have to buy in a box.
No taxes, no gas money, bus fare, nothing
there's
like
all that stuff you have to account into it, right? And, I mean, the one thing I'll say with that is that when new releases come out, the one thing I don't like about the PS3 right now, for example, is that it doesn't usually update at midnight or something like that. I don't usually play games at midnight when it launches, but I want the option to do that. I mean, that's an option that they should give me as a consumer. If I like a game, I should be able to, play it at midnight. And if they give me that option and they are able to let me digitally download, and immediately at midnight I have the game pre-ordered, it'd be even greater if it was actually downloaded already. But let's say they don't do that. Let's say I just start downloading at midnight, but it lets me play right away. Then that gets me that much closer to not going to, EB Games or GameStop or whatever. That makes me feel way more comfortable not leaving my room. I don't have to, put my pants on or anything like that. I can just stay home. Doesn't have to worry about any of that stuff, right?
The more we hear about the new features of the PlayStation and stuff, the more I think, wow, GameStop and EB Games are gonna die.
They are. I mean, I'm not going to disclose where I work personally, but the thing is, I see it in front of my eyes every day that the media is constantly changing. And with stuff like this, we talk about right now, media is already, digital media is becoming a thing that we can constantly get our hands on a lot easier. And as stuff like this comes out that we're kind of like, wow, I didn't know I can do that, but I can do that with the new system, it's going to push it even more, and it's going to make it harder for places that sell games to sell them in general. And the one thing that they didn't talk about that was actually kind of interesting is they didn't talk about anything about used games or codes to buy games. They didn't bring that up, and I don't know where I sit on that, but it's kind of interesting that they left that. They didn't even touch it. They just kind of talked about all this other stuff, but they didn't touch the fact that maybe you need a code for your game or anything like that. They left that blank. But yeah, it's one of those things that, I mean, could potentially be an even more killing factor for, actual retail companies. But let's move on after that to talk about Gaikai a little bit, the company that PlayStation Sony bought recently for $400 million. I guess it was about a year and a half ago. And a lot of talks about them because they are a streaming service. They offered in the past as a single service to let you play games from their servers. So they would have their, big bunch of PCs in some sort of warehouse in, let's say, Los Angeles, and you could play for a fee. You could play these games and experience them. It would be, there'd be a slight lag because you'd be playing them on the computer from all the way over in a different area, but you still got to experience the games, and you didn't necessarily have to go buy them from a store. Sony bought them, and Sony's looking to integrate that technology into the PS4. They talked about, trying games for free. It seems like that's something that you can do. There's already time trials, but you have to download those games fully right now.
Yeah.
So there's interesting things that they can do with that, and they also talked a little bit about the cloud service too, which I already talked a bit about. But what I wanted to get from you guys is your opinion on that. Would that be a service that you guys would be interested in using, or is that just completely non-interest for you?
Usually when I go get a game, I have a pretty good idea of what I'm getting into. There's only been a couple cases where I bought a game on release day and then played it and was like, I've just wasted my money. And so I don't think I'll use that really, but I could see how it could be helpful, especially for people who don't buy many games a year. I buy more than 10 games a year usually, but for people who are still in school, like kids who can only buy maybe 1 or 2 games a year, I could see where that could be really useful.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same with you on that. Really, the only games I'll buy on release are games that I know I'm gonna like and I'm very excited for, right?
The ones you watch, the
yeah,
ones
exactly.
you see the trailers.
The ones you really follow, the big AAA titles.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
And I'm the same way too. I mean, I usually, when I'm going into a gaming experience, I just kind of know already that that's a game I want to play. I accept the fact if it's a crappy game. I usually have my mind set on it. I'll read reviews sometimes, and sometimes that sways my opinion on something. But more often than not, I go into something and I'm like, I want to play Tomb Raider when it comes out March 5th. And no matter what people really say about that game, I still want to find out what that's about, and I'm probably going to go buy it on day one. And, I mean, that's a cool service to have. And again, a lot of this stuff, like the share button, some people are not even going to touch that. They're going to be like, why is this here? What use is this going to have to me? But for me, the share button is probably going to have a really big impact on me because I love already recording gameplay, and I can just see all the possibilities I can share with my friends, this content already on the PlayStation 4. But again, Gaikai might be a big thing for some people, or whatever they're going to be calling the integration now. For me, though, it's probably not going to be something that I'm going to be that wholeheartedly getting into. But let's move on now, and pretty much we've touched all the parts about the games. They've went into quite a bit of detail about the console, but about 75% of the conference was pretty much just talking about games. They went about new IPs and older IPs as well that they're starting. Sequels for the new console. They went through the first-party titles, the games from Sucker Punch, the games from Guerrilla, and let's jump into those right away. The first one obviously was Knack, but we'll get into the one that was probably, if not the most interesting, just because of where it was in the conference. I think that we're going from a point where we're finding out all about this stuff, and for me, I was like, we saw Knack, but I was like, give me a game that I can actually see this technology. I was waiting. It was like the 30, 40-minute mark. I wanted to see something. Some stuff after the fact made me more interested, but they showed off not Killzone 4, but Killzone Shadowfall. And it actually, you know, we got to be apprehensive because Killzone's played around with our visual hearts in the past, but it looked like it was real gameplay, if not gameplay that's going to be very close to what it's going to be. And they showed off, I guess it was like a 5-6 minute demo or so. I want to get what you guys thought about on that. Is that something that's interesting to you? I pretty much know for a fact that all of us have barely touched Killzone in the past. Could this potentially be a game that you'd be interested in if you're getting the PS4?
I'm thinking if it's going to be like a launch title or round launch, then I'll probably pick it up just if I get a PS4 when it does come out or right when it comes out, because it's going to be one of the only main things that are going to be out, and it'll be a big title. And I've played a little bit of Killzone, but it's not something that I'm super into. So the only way I'm going to be getting this game is of its a launch title. It did look really nice, but I don't know. Killzone always kind of seemed generic to me.
Okay, the thing about me with Killzone is when I bought my PS3, Killzone 3 came with my PlayStation 3. I have not yet put Killzone into my PlayStation. That just says it all. I have no interest in playing Killzone. I don't know why. I'm not huge on first-person shooters, but I do like some. I just have no interest in this game. It just seems too much like they want to be Halo to me.
And when Killzone originally came out, that was the moniker that it did have. It was supposed to be...
It was supposed to be the counteract, like the PlayStation's answer to
Halo,
right?
And in a lot of ways, it hasn't been, but it's still done well, and it's still done, good numbers enough to have 4 games and a Vita title coming up in the near future as well. But yeah, no, for me, it's one of those things that this conference, I got to see more of the PS4, and I haven't talked about this that much, but I'm up in the air when it comes to new consoles. I'm going to be in on the ground floor because every other point in my life, it's been a point that I would have to ask for a console or wait and save my money up, and it's a very strenuous process, right? This is the one point that I'm going to be getting into this console generation where I'm at a point where I'm making income that I can go into and say, I want to go get that console just because it's the brand new console and experience that when it comes out. You don't have to make that decision if you don't want to, but that's kind of where I'm coming from on it. But I'm still up in the air. Like, I've played PS3 pretty much about 75% of this generation. I had an Xbox 360 originally at the beginning of the generation, but then I moved to PS3 after that, and I pretty much stayed there. But again, I want to see what Microsoft does. But regards to the PS4, if I do go the way of the PS4, Killzone could very well be kind of a cool title to pick up because it's going to show those graphics, and at least it's going to be something to play, right?
Yeah.
It's usually when a launch comes for a console, it's lean. It's not. There's nothing there that's like. Who knows? Like they showed these games off. There was about 4 or 5 games that they showed off for the PS4 that were actually first-party titles, and you got to believe that a couple of them are going to be launch titles because they're not going to just show this stuff and not actually have it come out. But there's a good chance too that a couple of these get delayed, and it very well. I think that Killzone 4, in order for it to be a critical success, needs to be a launch title, and that's my kind of line in the sand with that. Because, like you said, if you get a PS4 at launch, Gage, you're saying that you're going to probably pick it up.
It's just only because there's nothing else.
Yeah.
What I'm really looking forward to of its out on launch is Watchdogs, and I would just skip right over Killzone.
That's fair enough.
Yeah. And it sounds like, too, for people who may not be able to afford a PS4 right away, it sounds like with a lot of these more newer games, they're also going to be releasing them on PS3 as well.
Yeah.
Just to sort of help people with the transition into the newer generation.
They did that last generation a little bit too, where you saw like the EA Sports titles gapped both generations for a couple of years.
Didn't they just stop making PS2 games like last year?
I think that some, like, there was like MLB The Show, which isn't by EA, but a couple of those ones stuck around for quite a while just because they actually said they were still making a profit on it.
Yeah.
Because there's a weird way, but some of these consoles like the PS2, you know, are still in mass use in places that are, let's say, not at the highest end of...
Developing countries.
Yeah, developing countries. That's a good way to put it. But, I mean, it's one of those things that they can still make a profit off that, and they'll still do that, but you'll see titles like Watchdogs be a console that you can... or use it on a console that's either current gen right now or the next generation as well. But let's jump into the next one as well. And we kind of laughed at the name when they announced this one, but actually, for me, I thought it was pretty cool. It was Drive Club, and from what I understand, this is made by the people that previously made Wipeout, and they're pretty well known for making good racing games, and this is an interesting new step for them, obviously. It's kind of like, when we saw it, I think we're thinking Gran Turismo, but obviously when they showed the name and they talked about it.
Just to say with the name too, apparently we laughed at this name to start, but it actually does look like a good game. But apparently they've had this name on reserve for like 9 years or something like that.
They were that sold on it. They're like, Drive Club, we will make a game and it will be amazing.
What I imagine is them sitting around not being able to come up with a name, and some guy's like, hey, I just watched this movie Fight Club. You guys heard about it? And they're like, Drive Club.
Yeah, and from what we saw, not that much gameplay. And again, we watched the live stream, so a lot of this stuff, we could see what was going on, but we really didn't see the details of it. It was kind of like blurry backgrounds going on, so we can see, oh, cool, racing game, don't really know what it looks like. But with most racing games, they usually look pretty sweet, and if they're developing for a new console, it'd be another kind of interesting experience to see.
And they said they wanted to make it's not necessarily a driving game, it's a first-person driving game.
Yeah.
So the idea is to give you the experience of actually owning this car and driving this car.
They want to immerse you as much as possible.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they're talking about clubs, and hence Drive Club. But, you know, creating clubs of your friends and, you know, racing in ways that I guess you're challenging other clubs and you're trying to fight for supremacy or something like that. Let's go on to the other game that is by a well-known first-party studio, and that is Sucker Punch. Now, when they showed this off, the backgrounds, because they had the backgrounds going on, I was thinking Infamous right away.
Yeah.
And then he started talking about it, and I'm like, maybe it isn't Infamous, and it's going to be a really cool game about security, and like, I was getting super excited, because I enjoyed the Infamous series, but for me, I always like to see new IPs. I like to see new things, because new things, like we said, we're all excited for Watchdogs. We've never played Watchdogs before, but we're excited for it.
Yeah, it's a completely new idea, right? Because so many companies are coming out with sequels now.
Yeah.
It's at least
sequelitis, right?
At least 60% of games that come out are sequels.
Yeah. It's not...
I don't know what the actual statistics
I was just going to say, true facts from Mike Leahy's, 60% of video games are sequels. Yeah, no, but when it comes to this, I was kind of hoping, because Sucker Punch makes cool games, and I was hoping that maybe they'd be doing something different, but this still kind of looks interesting. I mean, I like where they're going with the whole security thing, and you could get the feeling right away when they're showing off the guy with his, like, again, really kind of cool physics, you know, the whole swirling around.
Tornado thing.
Yeah, they keep showing that off, like, with Agni's philosophy as well. They showed that, too. They like showing off these, like, little diamond specks flying around. It's the new thing for the new generation. But the game looks cool, and I'm a fan of the Infamous series. Mike, you were not on the fan base for that. Gage, did you ever play Infamous?
Yeah, the thing about Infamous is it was really fun, and I just feel like they ended it well, and that it doesn't need more games.
I'm in the same boat, too, where I felt like my story ended. Infamous 2, great game. You made Sly Cooper, you made Infamous, now show me something new.
Yeah.
And it seems so hard to end games on a good note now, too. So many people are always disappointed with the way games are ending, so...
Just end it.
I never finished Infamous 2. I finished Infamous 1, but never finished Infamous 2. But from what you guys say, it ended well. So if you have something like that, maybe it is time to end the game.
Yeah.
At least they're not using coal.
No, that's the good part, is that they're going with something different, although the guy looks very generic as well. I'd like to see, again, you trying to make a game for that general person. They're always doing that, so that's why you never see these really wacky, weird characters. If you have a woman, she's, you know, usually...
Yeah, I think they try and make it so that you could see yourself as that person,
yeah, it's
right?
the pretty generic, like, this could be me type of scenario. Very easy to get behind. But I think it's interesting. Want to see more. Probably not a launch title. I don't think that they'd be doing that because, again, Sucker Punch can probably take their time with that. So we're going to see more of it, obviously, and I'm just interested to actually see the gameplay, because that was more like a CG trailer.
Yeah.
They were cutting around a lot. I want to actually see what it looks like and what his powers are, and, I mean, I'm a fan of the series. I, like you said, enjoyed the ending. Don't necessarily need to go back, so if it sells me, I'll go back, but, again, you can draw a line sometimes with games like that. So the last one, now, they talked about this as a new IP. And this is from Jonathan Blow, the guy that made Braid. I don't know if this is an exclusive or not. He was kind of dancing around on the actual word phrasing of it. He said that it was going to be originally a game that was exclusive to PlayStation. And he kind of said exclusive to the PlayStation first. So I don't know if that means that it's going to be on PS4, then other things as well. But the game is something that he's been working on for a while. You know, Braid came out in 2008. Quick summary of that one was it was pretty much almost kind of like a Mario game. You're very simple but cool artwork going on in that one, and the whole basis of the game was rewinding time to get through stages, and it played with kind of weird dimensional stuff going on, and it was a downloadable title, so it wasn't anything big, and this game has a lot more going for it in that type of case. And the game's called Witness. It's a puzzle game. He also said it's going to have over 24 hours of actual puzzles, which is insane amount of puzzles.
And apparently none of it is filler.
Yeah, none of it is filler. Puzzles, that's a lot of time. I guess you could say that's 24 hours of puzzles for someone who has the IQ of like 20 maybe.
Well, yeah, whenever they say a game is like 16 hours long,
you can't really tell. You can speed run so many things these days.
Yeah. The thing that interested me was they were doing their best to make things the opposite of the way big developers make things. So it's an open world map, but they're not trying to make it a huge open world map. They're trying to make it as small as possible. So they're trying to reduce redundant things in the game. Right?
It seems like it's straightforward. I almost get the feeling too, because this guy's a very interesting developer. He's got, you know, ideas in his little noggin there that
artistic.
Yeah, are those artistic ideas. I could definitely see this game being one of those where it's like, yeah, it's an open world and you can do this in any order you want. I'm not saying it's going to be that, but it could have that type of setup where it's like, yep, just go around, solve puzzles for 24 hours. And I mean, I don't know if that's exactly what it's going to be, because it was a very kind of, you said, mist-like trailer gauge. And I mean, I don't know what that's going to be, but it could be potentially interesting. And yeah, that was pretty much it for the PS4 exclusives from the first-party studios. They had David Cage come on, the guy that made Heavy Rain, Indigo Prophecy, and now Beyond Two Souls. He talked a little bit about, you know, facial recognition, how they're going to be working on a new system for that, or a new engine for the PS4. It looked really cool. Not really that much going on with it. Just kind of showing it off quickly.
It was a very nice face.
Yes.
Yeah.
He likes his faces. Weird. Yeah.
Yeah, the hair was really poorly
I
done,
could not
but
focus
I
on
don't
the
think
face.
that was, yeah.
I didn't understand why they chose like that guy too. That he's like, I guess
it
they're
was
going
an
for the
old
wrinkles.
Man. It was an old man, so yeah, I guess they were trying to show that they can be as detailed as possible. What they said was, they're using, I don't know what you'd call that because I'm not a huge animation guy, but they're using polygons.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
It's called polygons.
They're using the polygons that were only specific to CGI movies before, and they can use that now on a PS4.
And that's really cool because they went through, also showed the evolution of his games where it's like, yeah, before we were only using this much, and you can see the drastic increase each time when it was going like to PS3 and then Beyond Two Souls. But then when they actually showed off this one, they're like, yep, this is going to be like CG. And when anybody says stuff like that, you have to have a little bit of a grain of salt. You have to go, okay, that would be really cool.
Yeah, you got to be really skeptical because I seem to remember similar things being said when PlayStation 3 came out.
Definitely. Like that. People promise so much stuff. Yeah. And the reason for that is because they want to get you excited. The reason why that conference is so long, they want to have everybody there, is because they want people to feel confident about it. They have all these people saying, PS4 is going to be a great console. And that's pretty much what every single developer was saying. It's so that us as a consumer goes away from that. Even if we weren't extremely interested by all that they were saying, it's like repetition that goes into our heads a little bit, where it's like, yep, all these people seem confident, so I should feel confident too. And the other thing that they do as well is they want to talk about these big things.
And then 4 weeks after buying the PlayStation, you would get a melted disc. So.
Something like that, where it's like, too much technologies in this one. So yeah, there was that, and then Knack was weird, but this got a little weird as well. Media Molecule, the guys behind Little Big Planet and now Tearaway, came on the stage, and they make really cool, as Gage said, artistic games, and they were talking about what they could do potentially for the PS4, and they went about, I feel like 50 minutes, almost an hour, without mentioning the move, and I was like, they haven't mentioned the move yet, we're almost clear.
Thank God.
It's not, no, I don't want to hear it. And then he's like, we figured out how to make the PS4 perfect, and I'm like, he's gonna say it. And he said it. He's like, the move will make a great marriage. And I'm like, no, it won't. It was kind of cool what he was showing off. But who knows?
Went into a really corny rock.
I don't know what that was.
Thing.
Like,
I don't know.
It was creepy.
They were showing that some sort of sculpture that you can do with the move.
I don't even... Yeah,
I don't know what they were actually showing us, because they never really said what it was. They're just like, hey, look, we have a move with the PlayStation 4.
We're going to show you how this works. And he just kind of sways the controller back and forth. Is he controlling the guy? Was he controlling that guitar?
Yeah.
And then they had the chick drumming, and she was using both hands, but it looked like she had one controller.
One controller, just like, no! But yeah, I mean, it was a weird little demo because, again, no game announced there. Just talking about, similar to David Cage, the new technology that they can use, because they're trying to show what people can do. And even people, like, so many people watching this conference, right? There's a lot of developers out there as well. So a lot of this stuff, too, goes to them, where they see that and they're like, that's kind of cool with the move. I could see doing something like that with the move. And it isn't necessarily for us as well. It's also for these people to make games. So David Cage showing off the technology of the face, and someone's like, I can make a really cool game that's emotional, you know? I'm not saying that's what people are thinking, but there's all like these extra ends to what these were meant to be, right? But still, that was really weird, and it was kind of like they were playing with puppets. That's how I felt. Like, they're like dangling.
It was sort of like, a puppet on a string.
It was we were laughing. I think
it
laughing was bad.
Another really odd presentation, sort of vague. They had quite a few sort of vague presentations.
It was also creepy.
Yeah.
You're gonna make your dreams come true.
That was the other part. Okay, when they originally, I forgot to mention that part, but they talked about, using the PS4 in your dreams, and they didn't get to the move at that point. And I was starting to get, like, kind of weirded out because they were just recently talking about how they're going to know what I want to buy. And now they're talking about, like, how they know my dreams and are going to make my dreams a reality. I'm like, you don't want to make my dreams a reality. That'll be very weird and
prophetic. There's going to be some screwed up stuff, man.
I remember dreams sometimes, and I'm like, what happened there? So, I mean...
Could you just imagine, like, you go into the PlayStation store one day and... you just see a bunch of your dreams for sale?
That'd be gross. I mean, like, some of my dreams are cool, but other ones, it's like these weird, disjointed, connected things. Yeah. It's like... So, yeah, obviously they weren't really meaning that. They were meaning more your dreams of artistic, ideas.
Your artistic vision is what I think they were going for.
Yeah.
Is they want to bring the player's artistic vision to life.
So after that... they were done with all the first party. They talked first party games, and then they had first party developers after the fact say, hey, this is some stuff we can do. And then obviously they wanted to touch on some stuff that third parties would be doing, which would mean that these guys are coming in saying, this looks really cool, they're going to make games for it, but they're also going to be making games for the new Xbox as well. It'll be multi-platform for those. And they had Capcom come out. He came on and he was talking about a new engine that they're working on for the next-gen consoles. And that's the Phanta Ray. Don't know what that is, but, it's just obviously their new technology that they're going to be using. And they talked about this game called Deep Down, which looks like something maybe like Dark Souls.
Yeah, it looked really cool, I thought.
I immediately thought Dark Souls.
Yeah.
There's also Dragon's Dogma that they did too. Those are a couple games that looked interesting, and I mean, this probably could be really interesting as well. So they weren't necessarily touching on anything that was like vastly different than what they've done recently. And Demon's Souls isn't a game that's made by Capcom, but it's still in that kind of same...
That genre.
Yeah. That
same sort of genre.
Same
games.
type of also mythology probably going on behind that too. It looked really cool. Again, didn't really get a great look at it just because of the stream being a little bit bumpy at that point, but something that probably could be interesting. Again, no real name. They don't even have an exact... It's called Deep Down, but it's not...
Yeah, it's sort of like a... probably a third-person sword fighting type game.
Yeah. Actually, I don't think it's third-person, just because in the actual video they showed first-person gameplay for like a quick second.
Oh, okay.
Like they were doing the CG stuff, but there's like one part where he's like walking through the cave.
Right, I remember.
And it was in first-person, so... But again, who knows?
Knights and Dragons.
Knights and Dragons and stuff. So we have them come out, Capcom come out, they do that. That was interesting. And then probably the weirdest part besides the puppeting and Knack and all that was when Square Enix came out and they showed off a demo for something they showed off like 4 or 5 months ago. And it seemed like everybody, like, we had the Twitter feed going on at the same time too, and like, wait, is this the exactly same thing? And it's a really long demo as well.
Yeah.
And sure, Final Fantasy really cool, but why show that again? It was kind of weird. Agni's philosophy was the video. I know it's cool, I guess, for someone that hadn't seen it. It's an interesting look at that. And then the funny part is they had another guy come out, and he said, all right, that was really cool. I'm, the guy that is behind Final Fantasy.
Just came out to say hi.
He just said hi, and he's like, check out more stuff at E3. And he's like, you came out to announce that you're going to announce later. That's...
Yeah.
That was...
kind of a waste of time on an already long conference.
You got 2 hours of that conference. You could have cut down 10 minutes there. Just had that out. I know they want Square Enix to come out and say, we like this, and that's, that's obviously good for them to say that. But the whole content that they were showing really wasn't... And I think maybe it could have been something where it was like they had something else and it maybe fell apart at the last second, or they possibly wanted to show something different, but they were like, we want Square Enix.
Yeah, maybe some technical difficulties or something like that.
Or even they just wanted Square Enix there to say that we like the PlayStation 4, but they had nothing else to show. So that was that there. And then they were kind of winding it down. You could feel like the same process was going on at this point. Ubisoft came off, and I'm kind of getting the feeling this is probably the one out of everything that we most enjoyed. They showed off Watchdogs, and
that looked amazing.
Yeah, it was definitely...
Yay, Watchdogs.
Out of everything. I mean, there was some cool exclusive stuff. I mean, like I said, Drive Club, Killzone, Infamous looked interesting, but this is the one I think we were all sitting there, and when we were making little remarks when we were watching it or laughing at certain parts, we pretty much went silent and we're just watching. We were just like, in anything. Awe. Yeah, we wanted to see it.
You know what part impressed me that was like just the AI, like when that they first start and they cut from the cutscene into the character and he's walking and the girl gets up from the bench and puts her coffee in the garbage can and they walk by those people and they're like having a conversation.
It's a very realistic atmosphere to the game.
I don't like, and I'm being a pessimist by saying this because it's obviously a demo. They can make it look as intuitive as they want right there. So hopefully the world is like that. But it was cool because the one thing that they showed at the very end of the trailer or whatever you want to call it, the little bit of gameplay there, was that they showed someone in the camera actually trying to hack into and they also hinted at that at the past, that some sort of aspect of multiplayer is going to be you kind of going up against these people that are much like yourself that are able to hack and everything, and you kind of fighting them that way. And they didn't touch on it in the actual gameplay. They showed a really cool gameplay sequence, but I was kind of happy that they still kept that going and said, yep, not talking about yet, but you can see that this is going on.
Yeah, and I hope they really don't, because it is Ubisoft, and Ubisoft loves to tell you everything about the game before it comes out. I really hope they don't do that with Watchdogs, because it really takes a bunch of the excitement out of it.
You gotta go black on some of those games, meaning that you just do not watch it. Sometimes studios are really good about just kind of teasing you a little bit, but other
Ubisoft is famous for, or infamous for, telling you everything about an Assassin's Creed game before you get the game, and it drives me nuts because I have no self-control.
Fair enough. So we got One more here that was kind of interesting, and then we got the finale of the show. Blizzard came out, PC developer. They've talked about in the past about bringing Diablo to consoles, and I didn't really know what was going on. I was kind of like, okay, they're out, they're talking, and then I kind of put the pieces together as he continued to go on. But at first I was really like, is he gonna, what, you know, my mind was racing, I was thinking of all these things that they could be doing. Still though, I've yet to play Diablo. When Diablo came out, I did not have a gaming PC. I now do, just haven't gotten around to doing it. And it's kind of something that maybe I could, you know, hold off for and play. I know that some people had issues with the game, but overall it's supposed to be a really cool experience. If any of you guys played Diablo 3?
I haven't, but they said it's going to be for the PS3 and the PS4.
Yes.
So I might try that out on my PS3 and then see how it goes from there.
I think with a lot, like we talked about the two versions of games coming out, because what they can do with that is they can just have, much like a computer, they can have a lower res version on the PS3 and then a higher res version on the PS4.
Yeah, and I don't think they've really, the developers, you know, it takes time for them to get used to the new technology and stuff too. Yeah. So, and you can see that with the current one, is games they got better and better as the years went on because developers were more practiced in using them. So I don't know, you know, the new games that are coming out probably aren't going to be able to tap into all that the PS4 has to offer.
Definitely. I mean, I played Resistance Fall of Man, the original Resistance that came out at launch for the PS3. I guess it was maybe 5 or 6 months ago now. And that game has not aged well. It was funny, actually, fighting the Chimera in that game because they looked fake. They didn't look real anymore. And that's a PS3 title. That is an HD title, but it just didn't have the zing of other games, and that's because it was a launch title. And launch titles look more like previous generation titles than they do like by the end of the cycle. You get amazing games by the end of the cycle. But earlier on in the cycle, you get stuff that looks cool, great game, but it does age over time because people continually tap into the content. Because a lot of these developers, too, make one game in 2008 for the PS3, and they make another one like 2011. Yeah, and they already learned their lessons, right?
Yeah, like a good example is a game like The Elder Scrolls, right? They had a solid game with Oblivion, and then they came back later in the console generation and came out with Skyrim. Yeah,
and they don't necessarily work together hand in hand, but they also, the Fallout series connected to Skyrim as well, or not Skyrim, but the Elder Scrolls, and just sharing of the technology, continually growing the technology. They're able to, you know, not really work out the bugs on the PS3 because the PS3 version has some issues, but
which is something that they've said that they're going to improve with the PS4 as well.
That would have been nice if
they said they're making it more accessible for developers to make games on the PS4.
I think that's going to be a good thing.
Really good.
They need to do that.
I hated how bad everything was with
Skyrim.
PlayStation and Skyrim and Red Dead Redemption was a bit like that too. So
it's one of those things that we haven't touched that much on it, but the beginning of the presentation was probably one of the best parts because they were really just hammering it home. This system is going to be a great system. It's going to run for a long time, and it's going to be easy to make games for. Now, I'm not a game developer, so I can't say if that's true or not, but they're talking about, you know, things that are very much like a computer. They're talking about a computer within a PS4. I know computers are, you know, it's already using computer parts in a PS3, but they went with their own little, you know, design on that one, thinking that they could make a better, you know,
and what
console.
It did was just made it more difficult for developers to transfer their games.
And push them away, too. It made people not want to make games as much because it was harder. People like Naughty Dog, they made Uncharted and The Last of Us now. They got to work on this console for years and years, so they were able to make it specifically for that. That worked out. But people like companies that were making games like The Elder Scrolls, Skyrim, they are, you know, having these.
It made it difficult for multi-platform developers.
And like people like Skyrim as well, they have a massive, you know, group of people working on the game, and sometimes just stuff, you know, falls between the cracks when you're making stuff like that, and it's hard for them to make a game for PC and 360, which are very similar, and then make this different game for the PS3. It's a little bit hard for them to do.
It's way more expensive too, I'm sure.
It is. They have to do it because if they don't, then it's kind of ignoring a bunch of people on the PS3.
Yeah.
but it also
Without
makes them
reason.
yeah, it makes them have to spend money on doing that. So the last thing that Sony talked about was actually getting Bungie to come on the stage. They originally actually had the Activision the Activision head come out and talk about some stuff just regarding Activision, saying that Activision is going to be a big part of the PS4. They're going to have all their big titles on there, and then went to the point of saying, you know, you've probably played a bunch of these, but the one that you haven't played is Bungie. And they got Bungie to come out, you know, the makers of Halo series, now moved on past that and have been working on this game called Destiny. We've heard a lot of stuff about it.
Looks a lot like Halo.
Yeah.
It does.
And we actually have some news on that too, just in general, because a lot of info came out this week. Because I actually showed it off to people, not necessarily gameplay, but just kind of concept art and stuff. But they had them come out, and it was kind of cool seeing them there because they've never made a PS game or a PlayStation game in general. So it's kind of cool for them to come out and say, hey, we're going to be making this game, guys, and get excited for it. I'm excited to see what Destiny's going to be because these guys make good games. I mean, you can't ignore the fact that Halo is a great series, and I'm just interested overall to see what Destiny could be. But with that said, that was the end of the conference. They said at the very end, PlayStation 4 Holiday 2013, so we will be seeing it this year.
Still no exact release.
No, and I think that was
price.
smart. It was both smart for them to do that. They don't know what Microsoft's going to say. Play chicken with Microsoft.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they can drastically change the date because Microsoft says something, but if you just don't say anything, it's going to play into your hands a little bit better. And right now, people watched that conference. They were happy with what they saw.
Got people a bit excited.
Yeah.
Other developers probably were watching too and got them excited. Different things like that.
Yeah, the one thing they also did is they didn't make people upset with a price that maybe is going to be high. And hopefully not.
It is going to be high. It's probably going to be the most expensive new-gen console.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not, because I lean more towards PlayStation than I do Xbox. But probably will be the more expensive of the two.
I've heard rumors about there being two price SKUs.
Two SKUs, yeah. There was a rumor that came out saying $559 was the other price, or no, $429 and $529 were the prices on those. Originally, when the PS3 came out, it was $499 and $599. And my actual reason for buying a 360 before I got a PS3 was because it came out quicker and it was cheaper.
Yeah.
And if I want to play exclusive games, then I can play them later on. But the thing is now that there's a little bit more of a culture within these systems where you have your friends on there. Your friends are pretty much linked into that. You've got your own name on there. You've got your trophies if you're interested in that. You've got your games already, where there's a lot of talk that Gaikai is also going to let you play PS3 games on the PS4.
Yeah, and the thing with me too is I've played PlayStation for a while now, and the sequels to the exclusives, I'm interested in playing them, right? And I never really got into the Xbox exclusives, so I lean more towards PlayStation for that reason.
And there's a little bit of a tendency there. So I think that they played it good. I think overall, I'll ask you guys what you thought personally. But my personal opinion from that is, again, I'm not sure which way I'm going to go. I need to see what Microsoft does before I can even say anything. And I want to see as well what happens at E3, because they're going to definitely talk about more games. They're going to talk about the system a little bit more. There's a lot more to say about this. But for starters, they did an alright job.
What do you mean at E3?
Well, at E3 in June, they're going to come out again.
Right.
They're going to talk. They're going to say...
Thinking we were later in the year.
No. Yeah.
It's cold here.
You're time traveling, Mike. You're time traveling. Get out of the warp!
I'm too excited.
It's already November. I don't have enough money. Yeah. So,
I'm not going to have enough money.
you're still in the wormhole. It's okay. We'll get you out. But yeah, for me, they did well. This was a good conference. What they talked about with the system made me interested in it, and I want to see more. But they didn't push me away. They didn't do stupid stuff that made me go, facepalm, Sony. What are you doing?
That was the idea of it too. Was they were trying to sell the benefits, the pros of the console, rather than touching on anything that they're not going to be able to do, like used games, right?
And you better believe there's going to be negatives coming.
Yeah.
Both of these systems are going to come out and they're going to be singing Dixie and showing rainbows, But when it comes down to nitty-gritty, they're going to talk some stuff that we're not going to like and we're not going to enjoy. And that's when it's going to be the point where you really make your decision. But for starters, they didn't say anything like, you're going to have a move controller to play every game or something.
Have to be constantly connected to the internet.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah. Thank you for not doing that. I'm interested. Keep me hooked. Show me more stuff through March, April, and May. And we'll see what you have to offer in June.
Being an Xbox guy, I didn't come into this conference with super high expectations. I was like, maybe they'll show some PS4 stuff. I didn't expect it to be this much PS4 stuff. I was pretty impressed. I'm not like 100% swayed. I'm definitely going PS4 this generation because, like you said, we haven't seen anything from Xbox, and there's still tons of time, and there's going to be tons of news and stuff that we don't like. But I was rather impressed by this conference.
I was impressed too.
That's good. Straight to the point. I was impressed. But yeah, we'll leave the PlayStation 4 talk there. And we'll jump into a couple of bits of news. And we'll get to our games that we've been playing this week quickly and wrap this up. Because we're going to get going a little bit long here once again. But we're going to start off with news. Not that many things going on this week. But the one thing I just want to touch on that's still PlayStation oriented was a funny thing that they actually did at midnight last night. For some specific PlayStation owners that had online. I was playing PlayStation, I was playing my PS3, and I got a message from PS something. It was like, thank you for being a loyal customer and continuing to be a fan of the PlayStation brand. Here's $10 to spend in our store. And I immediately thought it was spam. I was like, this is, what is this? People don't give you money on the internet. This is a scam. Turned out it was actually real. Got my voucher. It was great. I was like, that's really cool. I went onto the internet to check if this was actually happening for anybody else. Big article on IGN saying this has happened to everybody right at 9 o'clock. All these people got it. It wasn't like everybody got it, but it was like...
Yeah, I didn't get it.
It sounded like, because you're looking at the comments, it was a lot of people... A lot of people were saying that they didn't get it. It just seemed like maybe if you...
Maybe it could have been random... Is there any actual clarity on why people were getting? Was it just PlayStation Plus members that were getting?
I don't think it was just PlayStation Plus, but I think it has to do. This is my guess. Two things I think it has to connect to, maybe even a third. PlayStation Plus could be a thing connected to it. The other thing is I think it has to do maybe with how long you've had a PlayStation or how long you've had
a PSN account.
Yeah. And then the last thing is that it could also do with how much money you've spent on the actual store. If you went to, let's say, this increment here, if you're above that, you get $10. I think there was also potentially some people getting $5 and other people getting a little bit more. That's rumor. I don't know for sure. But still, I was thinking, Sony, you sly dogs. Tomorrow you're doing a press conference and you're warming up my back pocket with a $10 bill. I'm like, you guys, you know how to do a little bit of marketing there. And I thought that was kind of cool. But small story. The other one, probably the biggest news of the week besides all this PS4 talk that's been going on, was that Bungie officially had a bunch of people come to their studios, showed them around, showed them a bunch of concept art for the game Destiny. Not really talking about that much yet, but saying that it's going to be a 10-year project. This game is going to be something that they're going to be doing for 10 years, so a decade, and it's going to be, I believe, constantly online, meaning that you have to be connected to the internet to play it, and it's going to be they're not saying it's an MMO, but you're going to be playing with people. Like, you're going to be going... It's actually real, you're on Earth, you can go to Mars and stuff, you can go and fight these people, and you can go in your ships and fly away with other people and create your character. It's not like you have Master Chief as the main character, it's like you create your own guy.
And it looks like he levels up, things like that.
Yeah, so it has MMO aspects to it, and they didn't talk about the next gen.
It's really cool, though. I'm not a big fan of FPS, like I already said that, but I'm definitely going to be getting this one.
It's going to be interesting because, again, we talked about us from the PlayStation perspective. Haven't really seen that much of Bungie. I've played Halo games in the past. How could I have not? They're been everywhere. Halo LAN parties, big games coming out constantly on the 360 as well, and obviously the trilogy, the original trilogy. But it's going to be really cool to kind of see them out of that, a little bit more freedom. I know Activision's going to be the publisher, so they're going to be hard on them to get things done. But it's still kind of cool to see that they're going to be doing something different. And as you said, Mike, you're interested. I'm interested. What do you think, Gage?
It's kind of swayed my interest a little bit. I'm not super excited, and it's not something I'm definitely going to be picking up. It looks a lot like Halo. I noticed.
Yeah, it does have that vibe to it. It's, you know, how can it not, right?
Like, especially when they fired that
same
gun.
developers, like when they showed Watchdogs, I was thinking future Assassin's Creed, right? Like futurist. There's always going to be, and with the Elder Scrolls and Fallout, there's definitely similarities between games, different franchises that developers have.
Fair enough. So the last one we got for today, and this isn't a major news story, but still something I want to touch on because I think we're pretty excited for this one. Last podcast we're talking about a little bit. I don't know what Mike thinks of it that much, but Bioshock Infinite officially is complete. That game got massive delays constantly. It is now done. They said it is good to go, going on the shelves in March. And I guess I'm just happy to see that they're actually saying the game is not being delayed again, because it's been a tough road for that. It's been a long time coming for that game.
I remember I went into like a future shop like a year ago, and one of those guys was wearing a name tag that said, "Pre-order Bioshock Infinite now, coming this fall."
Something like that.
So really delayed then.
You interested in that, Mike, or?
Yeah, a little bit. I didn't really get into the previous Bioshocks, but I'm hearing good things, and I hope with it though is that they're not releasing an unfinished product. I hope they're not just like, okay, screw it, we're done with this.
They better not. Yeah. Because they've
delayed so long. It better be near perfect in terms of no glitches and stuff like that.
Yeah. So with that said, that's the end of the news, guys. We're going to jump into games that we've been playing this week. We've got some other stuff that we're going to start working on as well. We'll work on some cool parts to have in the show in upcoming weeks, but we've really had to dedicate pretty much 75% of this episode to talking PlayStation, so we're just going to do the nitty-gritty this week, and we're going to go around and see what everybody's been playing. What have you been getting up to, Gage?
I picked up Dead Space 3, and I haven't had time to play it really. I've just kind of like popped it in and started the intro a little bit.
But you finished Dead Space 2.
I did finish Dead Space 2, and that was fun. Like, I knew I'm a big fan of the first Dead Space. I played that game multiple times. I knew what I was getting into with Dead Space 2, so I enjoyed it, and now I'm really looking forward to Dead Space 3, and really looking forward to weapon crafting, which I haven't really played around with yet.
Yeah. So
also been playing a little bit of Assassin's Creed.
Cool. Will you let us know what's going on with Dead Space 3 maybe next week?
Yeah, I'll probably be done that by next week.
All right, cool. And just an update on Assassin's Creed 3. Where are you at now? Because you were like at sequence 6, right?
Yeah, I think I got one more sequence farther. I've been trying to collect things.
Yes.
And like being like going and getting people like from the frontier.
That's fun.
And been doing the ship missions. I like Assassin's Creed is one of the only games where I'm like, I'm gonna get everything.
It does that to you a little bit, where you just kind of want to go around.
Yeah.
I feel like...
It's definitely a good game.
We'll get to the Assassin's Creed review in a second. But one thing I want to say with it is I feel like I missed out a little bit on that fun because I was trying to get to my 50 games in last year. Yeah. So by the end...
Did you get to that, by the way?
I did get to it. Yeah. I got to 52 games. Maybe one of these episodes I will list off all those games. There's some very shitty games in that list. I went to lower levels to get that list done. Free game on PlayStation Plus? Sure, I'll play that. But I really did, have a good time with Assassin's Creed 3. And the thing I really want to do, because you, Mike, are a big fan of it, I want to give it a second chance in a lot of ways, because I've said...
You rushed through it.
I rushed through it. I want to go back. I'm not saying necessarily I'm going to play the story again, but I want to go around. I want to experience the side missions and stuff. And also with the new DLC coming out this week involving the...
It already came out.
Yes.
Came out last night.
Yes. The alternative...
I've been playing it.
The alternative history of George Washington. Yeah. Going all tyrannic on our asses there. I'm excited to see that too. But again, it's something that's going to happen when, let's say, it's the summer. Not that much is going on. I'll be like, oh, you Assassin's Creed 3, I'll pop you back in and see what you're all about again. But I guess that's it for you this week, right, Gage?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, cool. What have you been getting up to, Mike?
So I haven't really played anything new yet.
Okay.
I've been playing a lot of Assassin's Creed in anticipation of the new DLC.
Yeah, just continuing.
Just by the way, I've beaten the game 4 times now.
3?
4.
Why?
We've already discussed
I have
probably
played each Assassin's Creed game about 6 times. and I'm working my way up to that with Assassin's Creed 3.
So. Mike Leahy is the super fan of Assassin's Creed 3, so when we were talking last episode about the fact that we were able to talk freely about bad things in Assassin's Creed 3, it was because Mike Leahy was not here.
I do have my criticisms of the franchise, though. I'm not just all gung-ho about the game.
Fair enough. So have you got into the DLC yet? Or
yeah, so I started it last night for about 2 hours or something.
No spoilers or anything. Is it cool?
Yeah.
Like, is it?
Yeah, it's good. It's interesting to see George Washington in
a different light.
A light that's not projected by the American media.
Yes.
So,
definitely.
Even though it's fake, obviously, I appreciate Ubisoft's balls in doing that.
Yeah, no, definitely. They're playing with a very iconic figure to a huge part of their fan base. Yes.
Well, it was a thing that almost really happened, though. So at least they can kind of back themselves up with that could have happened. He was offered to be king.
Exactly.
So for me this week, I finished up Bioshock. That was something I was talking about last week. I wasn't getting into it that much because I was not too far into it, and I wasn't saying that many great things about it. I was enjoying the game, but almost immediately after the podcast, I was like, I'm gonna go play a bit of Bioshock, and I hit a point in that game where it went from being a good game to being
a great game,
a really, really great game, where I was like, this is now, I must finish this.
I remember
tonight.
I got home and I checked my phone and you'd text me and you're like, this game just got great. I'm like, I know exactly what part he just got to.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed it. I got through the game. I won't go into any spoilers or anything like that because I know Bioshock Infinite is something that is just on the horizon. Probably some of you guys might be wanting to play that game. But if you have not played that game, give it a shot because it still stands up. It looks great still, and it is a lot of fun. Besides from that, though, I haven't been doing that much. Busy this week with other stuff. I was listening to another podcast. They were talking about Bulletstorm. One of my games on my shame pile, just decided to throw it in for a couple hours. Kind of, it's an alright game. It's a very generic shooter where it's a short game. I'm going to get through it. I'm going to play it. Nothing that great about it. Just a lot of weird swearing.
Did you ever see the advertisement for it? Like the developer diary for it?
No.
Pretty entertaining. That guy was talking really fast. It was like you were at like one of those auctions, you know? Like, you can do this, you can do that. It was
well, it's
too much to process at once.
You're just like, whoa!
Yeah, it's like
the game
really in-your-face advertising.
Is a generic shooter. The one thing it does, though, is it kind of throws, like, normal logic out the window and is like, you go around and you use this leash to, like, bring people close to you and you shoot them into things and throw them into cactuses, and when you do cool things, you get bonus points, and there's, like, this bonus, like, meter that you rack up points with, and you get, like, weapon upgrades by how cool you kill people. So it's kind of neat in that way. It's not that deep, though. It's just very generic in the way. And the characters are so much like Gears of War. Just these grunt-like people. And, for example, you meet this girl, and she's like, I don't know who you guys are. And you're like, we want to get off this island. She's like, get any closer, and I will kill your dicks. And he's like, what? You'll kill my dick? And she's like, yeah, I'll kill your dicks. And I'm like, why? Like, there's so much of that going on where, like,
that's a really weird thing to choose.
The guy says
kill.
multiple times to what the dick. That's his thing where he's like, you scared the dick off of me, man. And I'm like,
that's a really weird choice of
Seems
words.
like it was written by a 14-year-old.
yeah. Well, it's like meant to kind of be. I don't get bothered by stuff like that, but it's still...
It doesn't bother me. It's just a really weird choice of words.
It's like just kind of a chuckle, like a small chuckle at the fact that it's kind of just...
over the top.
Yeah.
It realizes it's over the top,
Why would you
too.
use dick, though?
I don't know.
That's a weird word.
Question of the week. Why would you use dick? Answer in the comments below.
You could use shit. You can use fuck. You can use... I'm just... Sorry.
No, you can use all of those words, but it's a cool game. Fun. Lots of stuff going on. Last game of the week I've been playing too just came out this Tuesday. It's called Urban Trial Freestyle. It's a game for the PSN and very much a blatant ripoff of Trials HD, but it is fun. It is a good game.
I really like Trials HD for the reason that when I play stuff on my Xbox and I'm like, I'm going to download this game and it might take like an hour, I'm like, well, I can't play, because if you play like certain games, like if you play like a big like Assassin's Creed, it'll usually stop the download.
Yeah.
So I'll be like, I'll just play some Trials HD, and I don't know. I just like that's what I do with that game, so I don't. It doesn't really need to be a big title for me.
It really feels like that for me too. Again, not the same game, but Urban Trials, the opening intro for that game was making me cringe left and right because like it's trying to be gritty and it's like ride your bike through the urban landscape and you're a badass. You got like this handkerchief over your face and you got like a backwards ball cap on and you don't have a shirt on and I'm just like well, why? I don't want to ride around as this guy. This is not, we're talking about generic characters. I would have enjoyed a generic biker in that case. I did not want to be this do-rag buddy. But besides from that, the game is fun. You do time trials. You do like these other ones that you're trying to perform these multiples of tricks to get you points. You get stars for each one. And once you unlock a number of stars, you can use that to move on to the next levels. And they're varied environments, fun environments to play in. If you've not played Trials HD, want to play a biking game on the PS3, it is definitely a cool one you should try out. And I mean, if you got that extra $10 voucher, that pretty much will pay for itself.
Is it for both?
It is just for
PS3?
Just the PS3. I think you can get on the Vita as well, but it is not for the Xbox. I think just because Trials is exclusive to
Xbox,
they decided to make one for the PS3. But that is it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and stick around for more in the future. We'll continue to post episodes on YouTube, but if you enjoy the audio format of it a little bit more, if you want to hear an audio format, you can check that out soon at checkpointachieved.com, where we'll have a weekly podcast posted in the audio format, along with a video format too, and soon, not yet, we'll be on iTunes as well. And once that's started, we'll officially start numbering our episodes. But until then, this has been Checkpoint Achieved. Thanks, guys, for watching.